Hey guys, welcome to another installment of Color Mixing with Chris. I'm Chris Arpin and we are here in the booth at Createx Colors. And in this installment we're actually going to talk about kind of an odd color, but a color that's come up quite a few times in some of the technical questions that we've gotten. And it's not a color in our line per se, straight out of the bottle, and that is an olive color. So we had a couple tech questions actually recently, and that's what kind of prompted us to do this video because we don't have that color, like I said, in our line. So I'm going to show you guys a simple way to make two different versions of an olive color using our Wicked Detail colors. So the first one is going to be more of an olive drab color. So it's a little more like a military style, a little darker, a little flatter looking, and we're going to do that with a simple ratio, 4:1. So it's going to be 4 parts of our Wicked Detail Yellow Ochre to 1 part of our Wicked Detail Moss Green. So I got a little cup right here. I'm going to show you guys really quick. We're going to go 4:1. So we're going to start with the yellow. That's going to be 4. And the reason I'm using one of these mixing cups is if you guys are doing stuff and you want to be consistent, these little graduated cups are a great way to keep everything consistent. So I'm going to move this out of the way so you guys can see. So I went up to the 4 line, 4:1. And I'm going to go 1 part of my Wicked Detail Green. I already shook these up pretty well ahead of time before we started, so they're very well mixed, but that's always something you guys want to do is give them a good shake until you hear that marble bang around in there. So that's 4:1. So we'll give it a quick mix, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. So in keeping with that 4:1, we are going to move on and make a little bit more of a vivid color, more of an olive, like a martini kind of an olive color. So this is great if you guys are doing maybe more woodland type stuff, or you guys that are doing modeling. It's great. It's got like a very military kind of feel to it. It's more, like I said, it's more of that olive drab kind of a color. I don't know if you guys can see that there. So that's 4:1 with those 2 colors. Now, if you wanted to, you can also darken this and have the Wicked Detail white and the black. So you can actually add a little bit of white to that, and that'll kind of increase the value of that color, but it's not going to make it more vivid. It's going to actually kind of make it a little more pastel-y by adding the white, or you can do the same thing with the black. You can add the black and that'll darken it, but just keep in mind going too much. When I say dot, that's what I mean. I really mean a dot of paint, you know, and keep mixing it until you get to that point. Now going 4:1, it's an easy way to keep that consistent, and then if you have to, just a couple drops of the color is going to be at least repeatable in terms of where you're going with that color. But just keep in mind, the more white you add, it's going to kind of chalk that out, and the more black you add, it's actually going to gray that out and darken it, make it look really muddy. So it's just a little bit. You want to start with just a few dots. So we'll put that aside. Now we're going to do the exact same thing, but like I said, we're going to get a more vivid color with our Wicked Yellow, our Wicked Detail Yellow. So we're going to do the same thing. It's going to be 4 parts of our Wicked Yellow, our Wicked Detail Yellow. And actually, I keep saying the Wicked Detail and Wicked Yellow, actually, something I wanted to touch on as well. There's no reason that you can't use the Wicked line either. So really the difference, there's a lot of discrepancies in some of the descriptions, and when people think that the detail colors are different from the actual Wicked colors, and they think that it's the pigment, and it's not so much that the pigment is more fine in terms of the grind. It's actually the resin system. So it's actually submicronic. It's cut more, which allows it to work more with a smaller tip size. So you have a micron, something that's a 0.12, 0.13, really tiny tip size. That's what allows you to get more detail with that. So that's kind of one of the things I wanted to touch on. So you can do this with either of these colors. That's also why that the detail colors, a lot of people think, oh, they just reduce them more, and it's not. That's not the case. They're more transparent because of that submicronic particle size. It actually makes the colors look a little bit more transparent. So I'm going to do the same thing. After I talked about that, this is the Wicked Yellow, the Wicked Detail Yellow, and we're going to go the same thing, 4:1 with the Moss Green. So we're going to go right up to 1, and we're going to mix that up, and I'll show you guys. It's going to be a big difference, only because the yellow is, again, the chrome of the yellow is brighter. It's more vivid, right? Where the yellow ochre is a little more red shade. It's a little darker, more of that brown tendency. So that's a huge difference in more of like the vibrancy of the color that you're going to see. So this is going to give a little more of that that martini olive kind of color. So So you guys can see it's definitely cleaner in terms of the color as opposed to the yellow ochre. So that's it right there. And now you can do the same thing. You can go ahead and add a little bit of white. Again, you can dot it, just a dot, call it a dot. A couple drops of white is going to bring that color up. But at the same time, like I said, you're going to keep in mind, you're going to decrease the chroma a little bit if you go too hard. So that the chroma, we talked about chroma, that's the vividness of that color, the intensity of the color. If you add too much white, it will lighten it considerably, but it'll start to also gray it out. And the same thing will happen again by adding the black. You'll darken it, but you also run the risk of making it flatter in terms of the vibrancy of the color. So this is what happened. You can see a little bit on the stick there, just a little bit more white is bringing it more of that olive color if you wanted to go in that direction. You can see the old green up top. So what I'll do is we're going to get a little splash of reducer in here, and I'll get it in the gun, and we'll spray both these out so you can see what they look like, not just on the stick, but on a card. So we'll be right back. Okay guys, we're back, ready to spray. I have my trusty TH2, it's perfect for this application. We're just doing a little spray out card, and I'm going to do a couple coats so you guys can see exactly what this is. Now this is that first color that we made. This is more of the olive drab color. So again, this would be great for military type stuff or kind of woodsy, earthy mural type work that you guys are doing or something like that where you're trying to get that color. So that's really saturated, but that's exactly what that color is going to look like. I'm going to get my gun cleaned out and we're going to spray the next color. Okay guys, we're back. I got my gun cleaned out and I got our second color mixed and ready to spray. Same thing, just a little bit of 4011 and we're ready to go. So this is the olive color with the wicked yellow, wicked detail yellow. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to actually put a little more material on here than I would recommend for a coat, but this is just to show you guys really the difference in the color and what you can achieve. So I'm going to put this down. I think that's a good indication of the same ratio. This was the yellow ochre and this was the wicked detail yellow, and that's a huge difference, but still in that family of olive color. And this was both 4:1. And again, I can't touch on that enough in terms of trying to mix your paint consistently every time. At least if you have a ratio, something you can fall back on. If you're doing a project down the road again and you're like, oh man, what was that color? Instead of just taking color and a little bit of this, a little bit of that, mixing it in a cup, at least if you have something consistent that you remember, you just have a notebook. I mean, I was painting for years before this, and I always had little notes before we had a computer system to keep track of special colors or special mixes or something that you like. This way it's easy, it's repeatable, it's consistent, and you know it's going to be this same color every time you make it. So that's it. It wraps this up. This is another episode of Color Mixing with Chris, and we'll see you guys next time.